Welcome to the Tesla Economist. Please hit the thumbs up and remember to subscribe. You can also follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon. I've had a thought, partly spurred on by Tesla moving over to iron-based LFP batteries in the Model 3 standard range in Fremont. It would appear that CATL, the Chinese company that supplies Tesla's LFP batteries, are able to produce a lot of these batteries. They're in fact the largest battery manufacturer in the world. CATL's battery production capacity is supposedly 230 gigawatt hours for 2021. To put that into perspective, if each car is using 60 kilowatt hours, which is supposedly what the new standard range Model Y in China uses, then 230 gigawatt hours wouldn't be far off enough batteries for 4 million battery packs for the standard range Model Y. CATL are not messing around either. They're aiming to invest $9 billion to finance their production capacity of lithium-ion batteries. And this is $9 billion in China, which tends to go a bit further than $9 billion invested elsewhere. And Tesla already have a good partnership with CATL. Now, due to the issues Tesla are facing with their 4680 ramping up, which is actually showing great signs of improvement by the way, allegedly up to 70 to 80% yield, but it's still going to take some time to fully ramp up. Now, although Tesla traditionally like to sell the long-range and performance versions first, rather than the standard ranges, well, if Tesla have their new factories complete with the production capabilities, then wouldn't it be silly to only produce just 200,000 to 300,000 Model Ys a year at Texas, when CATL could offer them enough batteries for significantly more units if they opted for standard range? Then wouldn't it be silly to only produce 200,000 to 300,000 Model Ys a year at Texas, when CATL could offer them enough batteries for significantly more units if they opted for the standard range? Think about it like this. Tesla might produce around 30 gigawatt hours of 4680 batteries next year. These are going to be earmarked for the Cybertruck first. Tesla need to get that truck up and running as soon as possible to squash any other potential electric trucks dead in their tracks. That is enough batteries to make perhaps 300,000 Cybertrucks next year. Although that does feel a bit ambitious, but if they have the batteries available, then who knows? Nothing this company is capable of surprises me anymore. Well, that's not true actually. They still continue to surprise and amaze me. But anyway, even if they produce just half that number, then that would only leave enough 4680 batteries for perhaps 200,000 Model Y performance and long-range models in Berlin and Texas combined. Now, we've been told there'll be a backup of 2170 batteries to supplement the production in these factories. And now Tesla have stopped using 2170 batteries in the standard range Model 3 in Fremont. It looks like they'll be conserving more 2170 batteries for this. But in reality, I still can't see Tesla having enough 2170 battery supply to make many more than 200,000 Model Y long-range and performance versions in 2022. No one is investing in ramping up 2170 battery manufacturing because this will become an obsolete technology. 4680s are vastly superior. And yes, it's mainly the chemistry I'm talking about, not just the form factor. Well, that takes our total Model Y production to a maximum 400,000 from the new factories. And on top of that, we might have 150,000 Cybertrucks, bringing us to a total of 550,000 units from the new factories for 2022. Now, Elon said that they could increase their capacity for 2022 by 100% from 2021, but these numbers are much closer to a 50% ramp up due to battery constraints. And Elon said that because they may be constrained by components, not batteries, implying that according to Elon, they do have enough batteries for 100% increase in production. Yet we calculated they likely don't have enough if they only use 4680 and 2170 batteries. Now, we think that these new factories have a total capacity of a minimum of around 3 million units a year. Production total of 550,000 for 2022 would be about 1/6 of the total capacity over the whole year. Remember though, we're talking about 2022. By that stage, CATL would have scaled up even further. Supposedly CATL are up to 380 gigawatt hours by this stage, which is an ample battery supply. And yes, I understand that Tesla are not the only purchaser of these batteries, but Tesla are the biggest customer. Tesla will also likely want to use as many of these batteries in their battery storage business too. So assuming Tesla are not constrained by components, namely due to chip shortages, but this might have just been temporary and not such an issue by sometime next year, then what's to stop Tesla making a standard range Model Y from these factories using CATL's LFP batteries? And sure, perhaps they do have to pay slightly more per kilowatt hour for CATL's LFP batteries than they do for their 4680 batteries, but the LFP batteries still cost significantly less than Tesla's 2170 batteries, which is the substitute Tesla are currently opting with. In fact, at a guess, the gross profit, not just gross profit margin but actual profit, from a standard range with LFP batteries probably isn't too dissimilar to a long range with 2170 batteries. Personally, I think that if Tesla are not able to supply enough 4680 and 2170 batteries to meet demand for the Model Y, then they should simply opt to also sell the standard range. It's better to get as many cars out there as possible, as quickly as possible. These standard range versions from Texas still possibly make more profit than the long range versions from Fremont, especially when we consider the front and rear die casts and all the other amazing manufacturing techniques Tesla have learnt since Fremont. Everyone talks about how the Chinese are going to steal Tesla's intellectual property, software and hardware. Well, what do you think Tesla have been doing in China? They've been learning about the Chinese manufacturing techniques from building 2 factories there and amassed a lot of intellectual property from the appropriate human capital. And Tesla have built Texas and Berlin around these new techniques they've learned over the last couple of years. The new factories are going to produce cars a lot more efficient than the Chinese factories. Tesla don't want to halt production due to batteries. Not if there's a Chinese company capable of supplying an enormous quantity of batteries to them at reasonably low cost. Remember, we're talking about the standard range. When this car was for sale in the US, it was only $42,000, and the standard range for sale in China isn't far off that price. The made in China version has a range of 283 miles WLTP compared to Tesla's US version using 2170 batteries, not LFP, which was 244 miles EPA, so quite a similar range. But perhaps with the new factories and front and rear die casting, then Tesla could possibly get the standard range version above 250 miles of range EPA, which would be good enough for a lot of consumers, especially when it's supplemented with the long range version. However, I have a feeling the price might be closer to $45,000, considering the long range is now $54,000, up from $50,000 from the start of January 2021, which means Tesla would make a great profit margin on the standard range from Texas. But a $45,000 Model Y available in the US, well, the demand will surge. We're talking about a $9,000 price difference from the long range. You know, that car that sold out until next year. If Tesla are not constrained by batteries or components, then Texas itself could do 1 million Model Ys next year. Wow, 1 million. Now I'm going too extreme, right? Well, if Tesla have already ramped up to 1,000 Model Ys a day in Shanghai, which the more people I'm talking to seems like this might actually be the case, in the space of just half a year, then how quickly can Tesla ramp up Texas? Texas must have in the region of 10 times the production capacity of Shanghai. But okay, perhaps 1 million is a bit ambitious. Perhaps it might be closer to 1 million run rate by the end of the year. But still, that's a massive jump from where we are today, especially if you also factor in what Berlin may have done at the same time. But if this is the case, then maybe Tesla and Berlin could produce 1.5 million cars in 2022, including what Fremont and China could also do. Then it honestly might be around 2.5 million units total. Coming from 900,000 from 2021, then that's not far off triple the number of deliveries. And in this scenario, tripling is not even out of the question. What other numbers can we use to help us here? Well, the Model 3 factory in its first year produced around 165,000 units. The capacity was 250,000. That's actually a total reduction of 2/3 of the capacity in the first year. If Texas and Berlin have a capacity of 3 million, well, 2/3 of that is 2 million. I mean, there is no reason Berlin can't also be producing the standard range Model Ys, using CATL's LFP batteries there too. It would seem that Europeans are less concerned with a longer range than Americans anyway. If Tesla can supply enough batteries for 500,000 Model Y long range and performance, and Cybertrucks, then Tesla would only need perhaps 60 gigawatt hours extra from CATL for 1 million standard range Model Ys. Remember, this is less than 1/6 of the 380 gigawatt hour target CATL have for 2022. Oh dear, but what if this EV tax credit comes through too, which I do have mixed views on. I'm not entirely sure if it will or not, as its intention is to benefit the legacy autos, but I can see Tesla taking about 90% of the benefit. On the other hand, legacy autos are doomed without it, but on the other hand, legacy autos are doomed with it too. Either way, Tesla don't actually need it, and it could interfere with their overall strategy, if anything. Anyway, if it did come into play, then it would mean that these Model Y standard ranges are now only around $35,000, which is insanely cheap. Yes, I know, not as cheap as a Toyota Camry or anything like that, and a lot of people still can't afford them, but in the relative scheme of things, What I mean is it's exceptional value for money. Besides, if you do all the economics on the cost of ownership, it's a lot cheaper than a Toyota Camry when you factor in fuel savings, no servicing costs, and minimal depreciation. Then of course the elements you can't put a price tag on, like the safety factor. But demand for a $35,000 Tesla, well, if the waiting list for a $54,000 Tesla is 6 months, then we'd be talking about years. But this can be relieved by Texas cranking out a massive quantity of Model Ys. And remember, by 2023, then Tesla's 4680 production level should be at a run rate of 100 gigawatt hours by the start of the year, implying they may be able to ramp up to around 150 to 200 gigawatt hours of 4680s for 2023. And due to vastly superior energy density, then the average Tesla may only require a 50 kilowatt hour battery pack, which means there's enough 4680 batteries for 3 to 4 million vehicles a year, in addition to what Tesla have from their suppliers, which I believe will mainly be CATL. I guess we'll just have to wait and see, but 2023 sounds like it might be a pretty good year. Thanks for listening. Please hit the thumbs up and subscribe. You can follow me on Twitter and talk to me on Patreon.